And in this episode, I'm just continuing on here, trying to iron out these seat box lids. They're its original seat box lids. They're just, and typical of the 80-inch where the seats sat in them, they're quite buckled. And the braces around the edge have separated from the spot welds where they've just been hammered. So what I'm doing here is getting them as straight as I can, and then I'll drill in between the spot welds and then plug weld them. And they should come up really good. I've done a lot worse than these ones, and they come up really nice. And these will look really good back in the vehicle once it's all together. Patina on them's quite nice. Getting very close now to pulling out the welder and changing it over from mild steel to aluminium and setting up the spool gun and giving all this stuff here that I've ironed out a weld. this is its original early bonnet. And it didn't miss out on the party either. It's got quite a few dents in it. But as you can see, it's the original early pattern with these checked out here. So there's little checkouts there for those ribs. It's missing a couple of solid rivets. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to weld it, beat it all out, and weld it all up. Heat shrink it if I have to. What I'm doing here with the mallet is I'm beating back the underneath of the stays, the mounts that when the windscreen's folded forward that it sits on. At some stage, the windscreen's been down, and people have been jumping on it or walking over it or whatever, and they've pushed these into the bonnet, and they're really recessed into the bonnet. But surprisingly, they come out quite good. And I just started off with the mallet and pushing it in the opposite direction of what it went in as it was pushed in, and directly pushing it back the other way. And that usually brings most stuff out pretty good. Now that might seem painfully obvious, but the problem is when people start working on the panels is that they'll start beating from all over the place, but you really need to go back to where the dent finished, where it finished, and just reverse of that all the way back out. That way it minimises a heap of work rather than chasing stuff all around the place. So what I'm doing here is pushing most of the big dent out in the centre of the bonnet. It's like it had a heap of weight or someone jumping in the centre of it around the spare wheel carrying mount. And I'm pushing it I'm not hitting the outside skin, I'm pushing it on the mounts where that bent when this thing caved in, and just pushing it out that way. It's coming out quite nice. So the name of the game with what I do with getting all these panels nice for a patina restoration is that you're never going to, keeping the original paint patina, you're never going to be able to get these panels perfectly straight. So what I'm really trying to do is pull them out as far as I can get them, and when it's finished, most people would never know that the car was damaged as bad as what it was. And it'll just look like it's a car that's just had, light dents during its lifetime. But the truth is something quite different. And if I was doing a shiny restoration with this vehicle, the first thing I do is remove all the hardware off the bonnet. But this being a patina restoration, sometimes it's easier if you leave some things in place that it was dented with when it's actually being pulled back out into shape. So I'm not going to remove anything on this until I've got it all welded up. I've pushed it out, all welded up, and then I start panel beating it to get it pretty close. If something needs to be moved, then I'll take it off and heat shrink around it then. And I spent a lot of time setting up the welding of this centre strut. I need it to be absolutely in shape before I weld it. And you can see where my hand is now. If you look at the centre strut, you can see it's still coming up in the air or bent down if you're looking at it from the other way. But so it needs to be pushed around in the curve and held down when I weld it. And here's a sad fact about this bonnet. Over the last 5, 7 or 8 years, there would have been hundreds of these bonnets thrown away that were in better condition than this one. And it really is amazing what you can save if you're willing to have a crack and buy some basic tools. Especially in old Land Rovers, you can virtually save everything. You know, for myself, I grew up around the trade, so although I done my trade in the building trade, cars was my hobby, and I grew up around the trade with uncles and all that sort of stuff, into the panel beating and all that sort of thing. And I used to see the old timers, you know, the original restoration guys that could absolutely fix anything, like it was a skill. And now most of that's been lost. I mean, even people that say they do restorations, most of their stuff goes out the door and someone else does it for them. They just charge a price on top. The bonus of being around those older guys when I was younger is seeing all the stuff that they would save. You know, I look now when I see some of the vehicles being built, I'm not just talking Land Rovers, just any classic vehicle that's being restored. I'm just shocked at what people are throwing away. And then the word original starts getting thrown around, and you know, since social media, original's got about 350,000 different meanings. But in the old days, original meant, well, what it rolled out the door with was what it was original. But original can mean anything now. It's changed a lot. And anybody that follows the classic vehicles and restorations and all that sort of stuff, and I'm just not talking Land Rovers, as I said before, anybody that follows it, there's trades turned upside down with what, you know, people say they're car builders, and really all they are is people with money that project manage, and other people come in and do the work. There's a lot of controversy in the car trade at the moment, that's for sure, in classic vehicles. And most of the controversy comes from who rightly owns the trophy. The people that actually do the work, the craftsman, or the guy that's just standing at the end shelling out the money. And that's got a few people talking. All I can say is you're never going to get the same enjoyment handing out the pineapples as opposed to doing the work yourself.